All right, we are live. What's going on, guys? My name is Brian Mayer with the Mayer Group at eXp Realty. I'm here with Tim Murphy, Interlink Mortgage.
Ready to rock it on, Brian. What's going on this morning, man?
All right, so I was scrolling through my phone last night, and I have this app that does the news, and then it's like an algorithm, like anything else. Like whatever you read is what pops up all the time. So I have a lot of real estate news in my phone, and I saw this headline last night, and I was like, I'm going to call Tim and ask him what he thinks about this. Tim is the eternal optimist.
Oh, that's true. That's very true, man.
So I put together a couple headlines just like out of my feed of what the real estate headlines are. Talks about some of the future real estate, but I just want to get your opinion. Just kind of talk about things. I just got off the phone with 5 or 6 people. You know, one of the things that I do is call people whose houses didn't sell, and I discuss, what happened and what they need to do. And a lot of people have some misconceptions about things, and I think we'll just go over it, man. So the first thing is, I saw this headline that said 70% of people regret their decision about a home purchase. 72% of recent American home buyers have regrets about their purchase as market cools. The steps you can do to avoid disappointment. What do you think about that, Tim? Do you think that people have a lot of regrets about their recent home purchase?
Honestly, I think people are just scared. I don't think it's regrets at all. I think people are looking back saying, geez, I just entered into a major, purchase, but they don't recognize, and you and I both know this. We look short term. We never look long term,
I
Brian.
love listening to Tim's.
Because,
I love Tim's spin.
5 years
Like, if
from
you
now,
feel bad about yourself, even if you're not buying a house, just call Tim, tell him what you got going on, and he'll make you feel better. So if
look, they're
you
going
feel
to
bad about calling your house, buying a house, call Tim right now.
call me, because they're going to look back 5 years from now and saying, you know what, I've had this amazing house. I've got a tax advantage. My house hopefully has increased in value, but overall, man, just having that satisfaction of knowing, you know where you're at, you're in a good place. And then in 30 years, it's paid for. Come on, Brian. This is a win-win.
I
I think
got you. So it goes on to just kind of say, there's are some regrets about the whole thing, and different reasons everybody has for
right.
that. But I think overall, it's not saying that they overall regret the decision; they just have regrets. So it's kind of a one of those misleading headlines. But I don't think that people made a mistake who have bought a house because, you and I have discussed this. I don't think that the housing market is going to go down in such a
No.
way that people are going to get stuck in most situations, especially around here. We're in the Maryland area. Our market is very like tied to the federal government, and the federal government's not going anywhere. If you bought like a vacation house in Arizona or something like that, I feel like that could be a different market. It's all based on vacations. But so then I see this housing market is much worse shape than the Fed is willing to admit.
Which
What
to
do you
me,
think about that, Tim? Do you
that's
think that's
great.
possible?
Well, it tells me a couple of things. There's more houses coming on the market. There's going to be more opportunity for buyers. Buyers are a little hesitant right now, dude. That just says that the world's just opened up, especially for not only first-time home buyers, but for investors and flippers. I think there's a great opportunity there. I really do.
But do you think that the Fed is misleading the Americans about the true state of the housing market?
Oh, that's a great question, man.
That's what this guy's saying. This guy's name's Ian Shepardson. Are you familiar with Ian and
I
his
am.
work?
I am familiar. I actually saw the headline.
All right. So,
I was
Tim,
like, yeah,
are
this.
we being lied to? That's the question. Tim, I need you to be honest.
I don't think they're being lied to at all. I mean, so look, rates are so bloody cheap, Brian. I mean, look, I bought my first house in '84. Interest rates are fixed at
Here we
18%.
go. Here we
Dude,
go.
5%, 6%. Are we being lied to? No. Are we being a little more reality setting in? Yes. And that's okay. I don't see that as an issue at all. I think there's great opportunity out there. Hey, what are rents doing? Rents are
No, rents are
going.
going up. But so the question, though, is just specifically about what we're being told. Like, are we being told, hey, listen, everything's fine. Don't worry. Just keep going along, doing what you're doing. Then and there's this boogeyman in the closet that they're not telling us about is getting ready to jump out and then something bad's going to happen. Like,
No, I don't think
like
that's
you
gonna
need to
happen at all.
warn us, Tim. This is your opportunity now. That someone's going to play this back and say, Tim, you should have told me.
No, I strongly believe in the housing market, number one, and the lack of inventory is massive. The way rents are going up, Brian, I don't think we're being misled at all. I think it's a good investment. I think it's a good opportunity.
So look right into the camera, Tim, and say, it's not true.
It's not true.
So this guy doesn't even actually give any specific reason or data why he does, because I read the article and it's just a headline. The guy says it, but he doesn't actually give the reason why. He just says it's worse than people are saying, but there's no like specific data. So I can't even tell you what that's all about, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly right.
All right. So this guy here is a self-made millionaire who says you don't need to buy a home. Renting is totally reasonable for your entire life. And he says most Americans who bought homes since the start of last year having second thoughts.
Oh,
that was back to the other article. And then he's going on. He wrote this book about life hacks, and 38-year-old Hutchins is a self-made millionaire who's been effectively work optional since 30. This is a nice thing. I think Tim's work optional, right? Tim opts to work, right?
Yeah.
Currently holds a full-time gig and So he writes his homeowner, and he goes on to say owning a home is more expensive. And then he sort of like makes this equivalency as if the two payments are the same. And then he adds on homeowner's insurance. Then he adds on property taxes, and he adds on repairs, as if to say a rent and a mortgage are the same principal and interest. And then you add on taxes and insurance and repairs. And somehow, if you were to take that money every month and invest it, do like a little compound interest situation, the rule of 72. And if you had taken that extra money, I would argue that this is not a, what do we call this? A straw man argument. Like, I don't think that you look at a house for rent and a mortgage currently today.
Right.
It's cheaper to own a home still. And it doesn't take into account any appreciation for that house. Like, if you had owned a home 3 years ago, sit down with this guy and pull out a spreadsheet. Now, he might argue that if you'd put that money in the stock market, you may have done equally as well. I don't know. We'd have to sit down and sort of do apples to apples. But I'll say the one advantage to renting a house is, and I have rented as an adult, like after, and I think that the one nice thing is you can just say, hey, you know what? I'm good. And I'm moving to a new area. Like, I have this fantasy about living on a boat, and I feel like you have the front row waterfront property, the best view. And if you don't like your view, you can just decide you're just going to turn your boat around and go to a different slip. Or it's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to live in Annapolis for a while. And you just go to Annapolis. I'm going to live in St. Michael's for a while. I have a kind of job I could theoretically do that. My wife hasn't agreed to live on the boat yet, though. So. But what do you think about, like, so this argument, this guy said, if you had two that are the same and you took the money and invested in it, that it's better to rent than it is to own forever and ever. Amen. What do you think about that?
I think there's three problems with that argument. Number one, rent's uncontrollable. Your mortgage payment is. It's fixed forever. The only thing that's ever going to change are the homeowner's insurance and the taxes. Brian, you and I both, we've seen this. We've seen the argument and said, look, you know what? If my mortgage payment is $2,000 today, first of all, $300 to $400 is going to principal, Brian. That's like a 401k you don't even think about. It's a house 401k, right?
Forced savings, they say, Tim.
So that's number one, right? But number two, more importantly, after 30 years, all you're paying is the taxes and the insurance. Dude, your rent in 30 years is $4,000. You know what? Your mortgage payment is $800 for the taxes and the insurance. To me, that's a win-win. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. Short term, but long term, the forced savings count. 2, the investment opportunities long term. 3, your controlled housing expense, and the last piece, the whole puzzle, okay, is the sense of satisfaction. You got to have roots, Brian. I know you're not the root guy, but I'm a root guy, man. I want to have roots. I really do. And so if I want to live on the boat, what am I going to do? I'm going to Airbnb my house. I mean, think about it. The rental income alone by itself, right?
Maybe. It depends on what you bought the house for and what your payment is. Like, a lot of people today, they assume that situation is wonderful, but they're making $150 a month. And granted, in 5 years, you might be making $300, $400 a month, but it's not always the best idea. People just assume that that's better. But I'm going to say basically, I think you win this argument, Tim. If you plan on staying in this house for a long time, I think the real question you're going to ask yourself is,
Short term.
if you plan on staying in the area more than 5 years, like I think you have to look at it that way. Because you keep saying 30 years, like most people don't own their home 30 years. I could theoretically live in this house till I die. I don't have any big plans unless, you know. So I can see your point there. And I think that if you're going to look at this as I'm going to live in this area for 5 years, and then I know I'm going to go back to Seattle where I'm from when the stint at this job is over, then I think that's a different conversation. But I think
I agree.
There's so many different reasons why owning a home wins. So I feel like this is just a stupid headline. All right. Severe U.S. housing downturn possible, could fall 15% according to Finch. So a 15% downturn, I don't know what he's referring to. It says likely projections suggest U.S. home prices could sink 10 to 15% in the case of a major housing slump, alongside roughly 30% decline or more in activity over the next few years. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it has some credence. So let's talk about that. So number one, he's assuming, horrible thing to do, that we're going to have this massive explosion of inventory. Brian, you and I both know the demand is still there. We're still seeing multiple contracts. So, even if rates go up, people still have to have housing, because rates go up, rents go up. People still got to get housing. Their housing is going to cost a certain factor, right? So do I see it in an implosion in house value? No, I really do not. And the reason I say that is because just the severe lack of inventory is always going to cause a demand. The 07-08 crisis, the Great Recession, remember that we had the discussion before, was caused by this massive inventory buildup, which we don't have. And you and I, Brian, how many clients did we put in the fixed rates at 2% and 3% over the last couple of years, right?
Yes. Well, let me say this, and I've had multiple conversations, because just, I do call people all around the state of Maryland, and I talk to them about their houses that didn't sell, and I have some lengthy conversations. So I was talking to a lady last night, and she has a $500,000 townhouse. I think it's in Pikesville or Hyattsville or something, and she was explaining how recently the state has finally allowed everybody to evict their tenants, and there was a flood of very similar townhouses, and that the prices had actually gone down, not 10 to 15%, but they had gone down 20,000, it's like more like 5%. And she was basically saying that she recognized that there was a surge of inventory that had affected her ability to sell her house. And then my question to her was, do you think tomorrow's better than today? Is that why you're waiting? And she gave me this long, complicated answer. She doesn't really know what she thinks is the true answer.
Right.
So what about this 10 to 15%? And I would say it's very hard to understand how that works, because a lot of this 10% thing is people that were paying over the asking price, over the appraisal. I mean, it still happens today. I literally have settlement tomorrow on a house that, the guy was theoretically $200,000 over the appraisal. It's expensive house, but people I've seen it all year long. Yeah, it was 1.5 million.
Okay,
so
that's a unique sector.
But even then, a $600,000 house I saw just in April, the guy paid $50,000 over the appraisal. Now he agreed to it up front.
Sure.
I'm sure he was praying for a higher appraisal, but so I think in that situation, that's probably gone.
Supply and demand. Sure.
Yep. And then what about house prices themselves actually sinking? I mean, do you see that as a reasonable prediction?
So I don't think it is, and I'm going to take a step back. In 2021, Brian, in our area, we saw about a 35% appreciation. That's not 3% a year. That's 35%. And even this first 6 months, Brian, we saw 10% appreciation. So, okay, 45% up. Okay.
Yeah.
I think
so. 10% back, is that still possible and reasonable?
Yeah, I think it is.
So you're saying we could very likely see a 10% lowering in house prices?
Well, I think, let me reset it this way. I think sellers are going to reset their expectations to be more realistic about what is to be sold in this marketplace. And that's the key. I think sellers were over optimistic of what they could sell their houses for. And they looked around and said, "Hey, Brian just got 50 grand more on the $600,000 deal. I'm going to jack my house up." And I think now sellers are being realistic and saying, "Look, you know what? I'm probably going to have to pay closing help. Okay, I'm probably going to have my house in the market more than 24 hours. It's going to be on the market for 2 weeks. I've got to set realistic expectations. The house has got to be in good shape. It can't look like crazy land, right? It's got to look good, right?"
I agree with you. All
And
right. So
so
the
I
last
think,
one,
yeah,
it says housing market has seen another first that we have not seen in over 2 years. Do you want to guess what it is? For the week ending in July 30th, the most noteworthy shift involves what?
increase in short sales and foreclosures. I don't know.
No, the
What?
increase of days on market for the first time, 2
All right, what,
years,
what did it go from 2 days to 3 days, Brian? What are we talking about here, man?
32 days.
Okay, that's not unrealistic.
Well, it was 100 for my entire career. It was like
Okay,
literally
so
105, 103, 99, 105,
what that
113.
tell you? So it's a normal balanced market, which is what we really want to get back to. We want to get back to
Yeah,
some balance, right?
we're still winning
It's
apparently.
3 months of inventory on the marketplace. It's a little longer term, right? And it just tells you the house has been on the market for a long time. It tells you it's either overpriced or needs some tender loving care, needs some enhancements, right? Or quite frankly, they haven't put the right enticements in to sell.
Yeah, it comes down to that. Like you're going to be compared to everybody else, and you have to be the most competitively priced house for this very similar offering. It's supply and demand. I think
Yep.
the demand has slowed down significantly. The supply has gone up significantly. But one way we can measure that is days on the market. I don't have it in front of me for Southern Maryland, but they're just giving
1.1 months. 1.1.
in Southern Maryland.
Southern Maryland. Last time
Okay, so it's 33
July.
days
Yeah, dude, that makes sense,
or
right?
31. Yeah.
That tells you that if the current inventory that's on the marketplace was bought up, it
Yeah.
would take 1.1 months. Okay, that's still a seller's market is 1 to 3 months.
Yes.
You know what I mean? A balanced market,
Yes.
4 to 6 months.
Yes. That's what I was getting ready to say. So it's like you're right. So you're saying that the pivot is 100 days, give or take.
Yeah.
So
that's
anything below
market.
100 days is still a seller's market. So there's the end of the story. I think it's still a seller's market. I think people are still in good shape. I don't think the sky is falling. However, there are some like cracks in this like beautiful universe of selling houses where it's not all going to be rosy in the future.
But that's balance, Brian. That's a good thing. That
It's a
means
good thing. So
buyers
it
are
goes
getting
back to
good
being
value.
rosy. Tim, the
Right.
eternal optimist,
Wow.
brings it back around. A cooling housing market is wonderful. An
It
increasing housing market is wonderful. It's all wonderful. If you feel like you need some
Call me.
positivity, call Tim. He's going to pep you up.
So, Brian, the last question I have for you is,
Go ahead.
should I buy now or should I wait?
Now, this one is an easy one. You should buy now. And matter of fact, I've been telling people this for the past couple of days. You should buy now. I talked to a lady last night. She has a house for sale by owner. And she was like, well, I'm going to see what happens in September. I said, listen, interest rates are going up. If they just go up just 0.5%, she was talking about buying this house in Texas and this is her forever home. I said, just think about something. Just 0.5% in your interest rates, 5% in your payment, whatever your payment is, like it's a couple $100, multiply that over the next 10 years and think about how much money you're losing. And you're trying to argue about dropping your house for $5,000. Hurry up and sell it and get under contract down in Texas right now. Let's go.
Exactly. I mean, look, do I regret
Today,
not buying
like
a house?
yesterday, matter of fact, it's 2 months ago. Best time to do is 2 months ago, but a better time is today, and it's not better than tomorrow.
There you go, man. You're on
That's
it.
it.
All right, brother.
All right, Tim.
Catch up with, man. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, man.
Cheers.